All the teams had been provided detailed data set along with a scenario which highlights yearly economic as well as environmental attributes of Greenland, which these teams could use in addressing this imminent problematic scenario. The rules of this debate and engagement have been fairly elaborated beforehand to all the participants. I have full confidence, hope, and high expectations from all the participants to give us all a constructive debate today and devise a smart and innovative way for us to overcome this imminent challenge.
We will introduce 10 policies we designed. Our first policy is carbon emission trading system. After 3 years of grace period, the government will reduce total carbon emission cap by 3% every year. Our second policy is differentiation of tax rate using ESG score. Companies will be evaluated by fully reflecting non-financial factors such as environment, society, and governance that affect corporate value and sustainability. We would like to propose a method in which the entity's tax rate is determined based on the final score obtained by weighted average after scoring on a fixed basis for various factors conceived in this ESG. In policy number 6, we suggest the future of food and farming. The solution we found is edible insects and cultured meat. Both are reported to reduce the huge amount of grain feed, greenhouse gases, land use, and water compared to conventional meat.
I'll be introducing the main concepts of our 3 innovative ideas. As shown in the image, while the person is using the machine, nutrition and oxygen will be supplied. Unnecessary waste will be emitted through the outlet. If successfully deployed in 2071, there can be many applications of the VR capsule. It will also reduce commuting. Or the virtual meal will initiate the new virtual food industry, including researches on tastes and virtual restaurants, while reducing the food storage existing in Greenland by cheaper nutrition ingredients. Lastly, people can enjoy virtual leisure from their home. There will be less vehicles and flights for travel, which would greatly decrease the environmental burden. Our idea was influenced by the recent CO2 capturing technology, in which carbon dioxide from emissions will be caught by specially manufactured pipes and get put away in large-scale underground storage. Expanding on this idea, we have come with Green Dome, which adopts such technologies and expands on the CO2 capturing idea using a large-scale dome that can cover up areas with relatively high greenhouse gas emissions. With Green Dome, we plan to significantly reduce harmful carbon dioxide emissions and relieve the environmental issues in Greenland. In reality, there is a wall between users and companies. Users often don't know how green some companies are, and companies often miss out on environmental factors when designing products for users. To solve this gap, we thought of a platform that would connect them together. Specifically, we needed a platform that increases environmental sensitivity of users and companies while they're getting some profits back as well. Consequently, the application will increase green awareness for both companies and people.
And now I would like to move on to the second team presenting their proposal today, which is Team Curdizo.
First of all, here are the 6 topics in which we have divided our presentation, namely targeting the energy problem. We are proposing to use thorium molten salt reactor. Thorium MSR can be operated at atmospheric pressure, whereas traditional requires high pressure, which reduces the capital expenditure cost significantly. This difference is such that you can have 2 thorium reactors at a cost of 1 traditional power plant. Therefore, modular and standardization is the key element I want you to take away from this part, as it will play a crucial role in the viability of Greenland signing the Daejeon Protocol. And to add up, thorium is cheaper and more abundant than uranium as fuel. I wanted to show you numbers for the levelized cost of energy for thorium MSR compared to the other available sources in Greenland. And it is interesting to see that LCOE lies below even coal and can be further even have margin through carbon taxation. And here you can see, like, the thing I want you to take away is that the biomass and the coal contributes to the 0.85% of the total energy source consumption ratio. Now let's move into the short-term solution, which can be implemented while our thorium power plants are being developed. By looking at the emission graph of the OECD total, you can see a downward trend of emission, whereas for the emissions of the low-income countries, we can see an upward trend. we can see the increasing carbon dioxide emissions, and it's rapidly increasing for the Greenland itself. Therefore, there is a need for a short-term solution to curb carbon dioxide emissions. Our innovation 2 targets this issue by introducing hydrogen blend to reduce carbon emission while keeping the capital expenditure low and simultaneously increasing the calorific value for heavy industry and commercial vehicle. Secondly, we target to have long haul transportation to switch to the hydrogen base so that they have economic incentive in the long run, and also they will be switching to something green. Now let's look into the immediate viable solution. So next slide. So the Greenland population is mostly tertiary industry, which means they are indoors based. Hence, air purifying and cooling would be necessary. As you can see, the increase in temperature and pollution level would lead to increase in energy consumption.
The most important and the most easiest green business to set up for Greenland will be oyster farming. It is said that a single oyster can filter over 15 gallons of water a day, and a small farm can clean up to 100 gallons of water. The second green business is AI consultancy. The main aim of this is to help businesses that are transforming towards a greener option, to give them backing through data and through measurements, to give them a better understanding of what all ways and what all operations are to be done and what all resources are to be applied where, so that they have lesser emissions and they can fit into the limit. To sum everything up, next slide, these are the 10 policies and the 3 innovations that team has proposed.
So the reduction in the emissions, by doing such calculation, we are left with 66%, which is more than what we expect from the 60%. Hence, we are left with a surplus of 6%. And furthermore, KAIST, the agriculture policy, hydrogen alternative are not yet considered into account, which can further reduce the emission up to 10 to 15%, giving more room to the economic development while reducing the carbon dioxide emission. Thank you.
We would move on to the third and last presentation for today, which is Team Planet Earth.
So right away, we're going to jump into our first policy, which is in regards to energy. So what we plan to do is we want to introduce a microalgae cultivation project 2050, where we will be relying on microalgae as compared to the traditional plant-based biodiesel. And how we're going to go about this is that, one, government is going to start independent projects on this microalgae cultivation, and we will also be mandating industries with a red pollution alert to also adopt the program. And you may ask, like, why microalgae? Well, there's a number of reasons why. The first one is that microalgae does not produce carbon, so it's not going to add to the carbon emission problem that is already in Greenland. It also produces twice as much as energy as terrestrial plants. So we also have the agriculture policy, and we have 3 policies under this. So the first one is Organic Farmer Training Committee, where we want to train farmers on organic farming methods, and we're going to rely on experienced organic farmers, soil scientists, and plant biologists, and we will give them incentives so that they would actually complete the program. This is a very long-term gradual change program. Also, the second one is the Healthy Commodity Team, where we want to incentivize farmers to grow nutritious and essential crops. And lastly, we want to introduce a community gardens using a hydroponic system. And so the government is going to subsidize the cost of installing a hydroponic system and establish a monthly subscription. We're going to install this hydroponic system in low-income areas so that people who may have less access to first produce, they can have this.
Now on natural disaster management. Natural disasters are a big issue that Greenland now faces, so it gets its very own policy to deal with it as well. Crisis centers in disaster-prone areas will be built so as to provide help for victims of natural disasters more efficiently. These centers will be equipped with the necessary equipment to deal with trauma injuries like first aid kits, gurneys, and oxygen tanks. Socialization on owning emergency bags is also important due to the unpredictable nature of natural disasters. In the case that victims are displaced, they'll at least have a bag of essentials to help them survive for a short period of time before help comes.
The Save to Be Safe campaign, it is a campaign to mobilize a nationwide effort to conserve energy in homes and offices. And our key message is we want everybody to conserve their energy consumption to lower the air pollution produced by our fossil fuel plants. But the most important part is the second one. It's a hashtag Save to Be Safe challenge. So we want to challenge the public to lower monthly home or office electricity use. And we're going to ask them to support us by doing the challenge. And if they succeed, put a sign at the door of their apartment, home, office, detailing how much electricity use they've lowered. Our goal is, of course, to reduce the food waste and tackle food insecurity, and also facilitate the F&B industry to take part in this collective problem in helping Greenland and conduct CSR. You may be wondering, why does a lot of our policies involve food and health and so on? The thing is, if we want to talk about sustainability and tackling a collective problem is because climate change, you can't do it without the people. That's the most important thing. We can't do it without the people.
What is the efficacy of this virtual pods when we essentially need a food chain to survive and sustain outside, and for that food chain we need people to go out there and actually work? Your answer, please.
Our assumptions about the VR capsule is that the technology is already available in the outside countries, so that we can import the technologies from the outside countries and directly apply to the consumers. And for the actual economic chain in the real world, we actually presented the example, like the virtual workspaces and the virtual traveling, which enables people to gather in the virtual spaces and do the work in the virtual reality. For the except the manufacturing companies, but like the companies in the knowledge economy, whose works are mainly consist of computer working and the meetings and idea sharings, we believe that such works and industries can be done in the virtual spaces, reducing the environmental burden while achieving the economic goals.
Now I would like to ask Planet Earth, in your written solution here, without any budget reallocation, how do you propose the government undertaking these projects would be viable?
So the reason why carbon emissions are at such high rates in the first place is because of massive industrial work. So we're holding these large companies and corporations accountable by creating mandatory CSR that will encourage large corporations to invest into Greenland's renewable energy programs. We're also bringing in green businesses through our FDI initiative. And if needed, we'd be taking funds from the World Bank, because we truly believe that creating a renewable energy source is our top priority. And our plans are feasible enough in the coming future. So we believe that taking a loan from the World Bank would be a wise choice if needed.
Yeah, thank you very much. And now my next question is to Team Credizio. They mentioned something about hydrogen source for their short-term energy goals. I'd like to ask the main source for hydrogen being used as an alternative. So what would be the main source of hydrogen being achieved here?
So I would like to answer your question. So basically, we are targeting a combination of solar, wind, and other source of renewable sources at first to have the green energy as our targeted measure for zero carbon, or the at least minimum carbon. And at the same time, as I just mentioned earlier as well, like we are looking for thorium reactors to come into reality, and we are mostly in the long term deciding upon that. And for the solar panel, you must have a question about its efficiency and how much is it viable. So currently in the last decade, we have come across a lot of innovation in the solar panel itself. And this has been continuously growing. And therefore we expect by the year 2030 as well, the efficiency will increase much better. And we can, that's why justify using it as a source to extract hydrogen with minimal carbon footprint. I hope that answers your question.
First would be Team Planet Earth, the third team, to present their concluding speech today. Thank you.
Our solutions are quick, practical, and concrete, all to which answer the problems for the needs. We are convinced through all of our policies, bold changes will occur in Greenland. It will require all of us to do our part, because this is a collective responsibility, not just the government, not just corporations, but every single entity in Greenland. And that is what distinguishes our policy. What is a nation without its people? We put people first. A good society puts the quality of life of its citizens at the forefront of its agenda. Each citizen also has a dual responsibility, both for themselves and the nation, as the success of our policies depend on the collaboration of every entity in the nation. We also did not forget that a good society ultimately achieves a balance of economic viability, environmental protection, and social equity. These three pillars are the values that we hope greatly incorporate in the long run.
Thank you. Thank you, Planet Earth, for a wonderful concluding speech. And now we'd move to Team Curtisio for their concluding remarks.
In order to make life viable for the generations to come, we need to act now. And the way to do this is creating the new revolutionary era. We need a new source of energy that can save us from the destructive impact that has been done by fossil fuels. We believe human societies push too hard on the limitations of current viable energy sources. Eventually, all comes down to energy, and we, as Kurditso, respond to this with radical innovations towards the way we generate energy in order to fulfill this necessity of our time. Earth is our habitat that we need to preserve. The need for energy is not just the cause of environmental harm, it is also the solution. We aim to overcome all the natural disasters our country is facing, not just our country, but that the whole globe is facing with, and to assure a better future and freedom for every one of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Team Curtisio, for a wonderful concluding speech. And now we'd move on to our last team for their concluding speech, Team Greedy Green.
We believe that a clean environment, in economic growth, and citizens' happiness are all essential values we must keep, and not one should be sacrificed for the other. So our first solution, VR Capsule, grants its users comfortable virtual reality experiences and supports all senses. Inside the capsule, users are connected to his or her own virtual reality. VR capsules bring many benefits, including promoting economic activity, reduction of commuting by virtual workspace, and promoting contentment and well-being by staying in a VR environment. This solution thus helps the environment while improving the productiveness as well as the happiness of Greenland citizens. Our second solution, the Green Dome, is a large-scale dome to cover up the areas that are producing greenhouse gas emissions and capture carbon dioxide from these emissions. Capturing carbon dioxide molecules and transferring them into underground storage can naturally dissolve these molecules and even use them as the other energy resources in the future, relieving air pollution and temperature rise issues in Greenland. Finally, CodeTrack is a platform that can increase the environmental sensitivity of both users and companies, which rewards both participants. Each company is rated based on their ESG score, and users can vote for companies that seem to successfully achieve green growth. This can lead to an increase in green awareness of people in Greenland. We show through our policies and solutions that environment does not have to be sacrificed for economic growth. Like our slogan, we really want to make Greenland green again. Thank you.